Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm excited to be with you guys again. The topic I want to talk about today is all about safety when you're traveling. And this topic is, I think, a little bit heavier, but still really, really important. And it was on my heart to talk about this today because, as I'm sure you have as well, you've seen all the news about the coronavirus, and it's causing a lot of fear all around the world. And so I just wanted to talk about safety and security, feeling secure when you travel. I often tell people the world is not such a scary place that you can feel at home anywhere in the world. But having fear or anxiety is completely valid, and we feel that way anytime we step into the unknown. So I want to focus today on talking about how you can feel safe and really provide some guidance for you to make sure that you feel great about your trip and that you can have peace of mind when you're away from home. So I have 5 tips that I want to share with you on staying safe when you travel abroad. The first one that I want to share is making sure that you check your country's State Department recommendations. So in the US, you can check the US State Department, obviously, but pretty much anywhere in the world, there will be State Department recommendations on what you should or shouldn't do in certain destinations around the world. So if you go there and you look up any country, your State Department will provide information on areas to avoid, things to watch out for, recent incidents. So you can look it up by the country that you're going to be visiting or by the region that you're going to be visiting, and they'll provide their recommendations. So sometimes there's an area where they'll tell you straight out, like, they don't recommend that you travel to this. There might be some kind of unrest there. There might be disease. There might be all sorts of threats to tourists, that tourists may be specifically being targeted by, maybe a terrorism group. So there'll be recommendations there. And I strongly encourage you to read all of that information and familiarize yourself with it. And if your destination does have some type of recommendations, whether it's do not travel or a warning, you don't necessarily have to make that the end of your decision and say you're not going to go to that destination, but it means that you should be really informed about making that decision. So it doesn't mean don't go if you see stuff listed on the country, but make sure that you understand what that might mean, and so you can take the right precautions for yourself and your family if you decide to visit that destination. The next recommendation is to familiarize yourself with the emergency phone numbers in your destination. So if you're not going to be in the United States, in the US, obviously we have 911, and that works pretty much anywhere you are. In the United States, you can reach emergency services that way, but if you're in another country, they might have 111, or they might have all sorts of other combinations of numbers that will help you to reach the emergency services. So you can't just pick up the phone and dial 911 like you do at home. You have to make sure you understand what the emergency services number are locally. So just make sure that you look that up. You can find it online easily, or any guidebooks will be able to tell you that information. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with that before you get there, so that you, if you were to have an emergency, you know who to call. And then the next thing, which kind of goes with my first recommendation around the State Department, is to take down information around your nearest embassy. So find out the location of the embassy for your home country that is in your destination country. So you'll want to know the phone number and the address. And in the US, we also have a program, I think it's still called STEP. I don't remember what it stands for, but if you go to the US State Department, you can register your trip on their website, and so they'll know that you're in that specific country, and if anything were to happen in that country while you're traveling, they would, 1, know that you're there, and 2, be able to reach out to you around if there's evacuation procedures or anything that you need to know. So for instance, I was in Cuba, I guess that was 2017 now, and while I was there was there was a hurricane approaching, and I was registered online, so I got a bunch of notices from the US State Department saying that the hurricane was approaching, and so they were encouraging US travelers that were there to take an earlier flight to get out before the hurricane hit the island. So things like that, if there are natural disasters approaching, if there are any other kinds of emergencies, they'll be able to get in touch with you and help you to get the services that you need, get evacuated. So make sure that you know the information for your local embassy. And if anything were to happen to you while you are traveling in another country, if you're the victim or target of a crime, reach out to both the emergency services as well as the embassy for your home country so that they know that, you know, you've experienced this, that they can provide support, they can advocate for you if anything were to go wrong. It's really important that you use both of those both of those resources at your disposal. So being in touch with your embassy can make sure that you have somebody in your corner to make sure you get taken care of while you're in that country and get home safely. And then the next one is avoiding making yourself seem like an easy target. Tourists are targets. It's pretty common, as you probably know, especially for petty crimes, that people target tourists because they know that you probably have money with you because you're there to buy souvenirs or go out to eat or whatever. So you have enough money to be able to travel, so they know that you have funds, and you might have valuables with you, a cell phone, cameras, those kinds of things. So it's very common. You're also, you know, not familiar with your surroundings, so it's very easy for them to target tourists. So it's important, if you are traveling, to not make yourself stand out like a sore thumb and make yourself seem like an easy target. One of the things I encourage you to find out more about is local scams that might be common in the destination that you're going to. You can do a little research online. The State Department website will often mention if there are common scams that are run in the destination that you're visiting. I even found out when I was traveling to Turkey, the hostel I stayed in would provide information around common scams. A scam that they had seen a lot for gentlemen who stayed at the hostel was Party with Pretty Girls. Basically what it was a gentleman would go out to a walk around the city, and he would be approached by a group of very beautiful women, and they would start to flirt with him and then invite him to go have some drinks. And of course the gentleman would say, yes, I want to go hang out with these pretty girls. And they would get to the bar, and they would pay for his drinks and have a great time. And then they would say, oh, let's go to this next place. I have a friend and they'll take care of us. Or let's go to this restaurant and my friends will take care of us. And they go to the next location, and they'll keep ordering drinks and food and everything. And then at the end of the night, they approach the gentleman and they hand him a tab for all of the drinks and food, and it would be thousands of euros. And so I actually, a guy that I met while I was there had this happen to him. They handed him a receipt, and they were expecting him to pay like 3,000 euro, which he did not have. And they took him to the back room, and they were trying to give him the shakedown and intimidate him. And eventually they were able to get 200 euro out of him, because I think that's all he had in cash. But yeah, it can be a common scam, and they'll target tourists, target men for that particular scam. So something to keep an eye out for. I've heard of other scams where somebody will pretend like you dropped something, and then they'll run up to you and try to hand it to you. And that can be either a scam, one, to try to have their partner pickpocket you while you're having a conversation about this supposed item that you dropped, or they might hand the item back for you and then expect payment in return for your dropped item, even though you didn't drop anything. My other friends, they had an incident like that where they tried to help somebody who dropped a bunch of items, which is really difficult because you're trying to be a kind person and help somebody who picked up a bunch of items that they dropped. So they went to do that. And then afterward, the gentleman requested payment for I don't even know why he requested payment. It doesn't make any sense. They helped him. But yeah, so he requested payment and started harassing them about paying him for no service that he rendered. It was very odd. So things like that can happen. It's more of an annoyance than a safety concern, but you still want to make sure that you know that, especially like with the money situation. You don't want to give away 200 euro from your trip. That's a very hefty chunk of change to give away over such a silly incident. So make sure that you're familiar with any kinds of scams that might be common in the place that you're visiting. And also, like I mentioned, petty crimes are very, very common. So people pickpocketing, trying to take your valuables. So if you can leave valuables at home, that's the best recommendation. Don't bring flashy jewelry or lots of expensive electronics. Leave those at home if possible, or if you do have them out with you, make sure that they're not visible. There's different kinds of backpacks and fanny packs that you can wear that will hide away your valuables, like your money and things like that, so that you don't have to worry about them being pickpocketed while you're out and about. If you have items and you go to a cafe, for instance, don't just leave all your stuff on the table or underneath the table, because somebody could easily come by and swipe your items. So little things like that to remember will really make you much less of an easy target for somebody to come in and do something, take something from you. And if you have other items that you are traveling with that are expensive, you can also make sure to use the safe in your hotel room. So there's lots of little things that you can do to try to make sure that you keep your items safe and secure. And last is, if you know, in terms of avoiding making yourself look like an easy target, if you wouldn't do it at home, don't do it while you're traveling. So if you wouldn't walk around by yourself in a place that you don't know and aren't familiar with at night by yourself, don't do that when you're traveling. That's not a good idea. Don't take drinks from strangers. Don't get intoxicated with a bunch of people that you don't know. Those kinds of things, again, could make you a target for a crime or for something, just really terrible happening. So make sure to just keep that in mind. If you wouldn't do it at home, don't do it while you're traveling. I know often kind of let our guard down, and I think it's great that we can feel more at ease and make friends with strangers, but you just also want to make sure that you use your sense and keep your wits about you, so that if anything were to go wrong, that you are able to handle that accordingly. And the last tip that I have for you is, if you're feeling funny about any situation, don't ignore that feeling. If you have this feeling that something's just not right, that doesn't sound right, that person doesn't seem right, listen to that instinct. There was this book that I read years ago. It was called The Gift of Fear, and it talked all about this instinct that we naturally have that somebody or something is not right, and how important it is for us to listen to that feeling, listen to that instinct, because it's a gift for us to know that something isn't right before we actually are in the situation that tells us it's not right. We often have that feeling. So listen to that. So if you're somewhere and someone is making you feel uncomfortable, if you're like, I'm just not sure I want to do business with this person, or I don't want to sit next to this person, if a situation just makes you feel a little uneasy, just exit stage left, get out of there. And this especially is important, I think, for women, because we get paralyzed by politeness. We think this guy comes over, is talking to us, we don't want to be rude and just tell him to go away, or we don't want to get up and walk away, or somebody is asking us for help with something, and then we feel like the kind thing to do is to help them, when in reality we don't feel comfortable helping them. Make sure that you listen to that feeling, listen to your own instinct around what will make you feel safe and secure. Don't feel like you have to be polite, you have to let this person touch you or talk to you or be in your space, whatever it might be. Don't feel like you have to be polite in order to make the other person feel comfortable if you don't feel comfortable. So it's really, really important. I've been in that situation myself as a woman, and so I know that it's very easy for us to feel like we don't want to be rude or we don't want to be disliked, and it's really important to follow your instinct around what it is that will make you feel safe in those situations. Again, those are my 5 tips for you. But again, like, the likelihood of something happening, there being a serious safety concern while you're traveling, is really low. But I think being prepared can give you that peace of mind, so that when you're out there on your trip, you can feel really great. You can focus on having a great time, because in the back of your mind, you know that if anything were to go wrong, you know exactly how to handle it, and you've taken all of the precautions to keep the probability of those things happening very, very low. So those are my tips for you, like I shared. One more thing that I want to share with you before I go is I'm going to be doing an online class this month. I'm really, really excited about it. It's called Travel More: 5 Secrets to Achieve Your Travel Goals in 2020. And you can find a link to register in the description box for this video. And in this class, I'm going to be talking about how to up your game in 2020 with travel. So we'll be addressing all the things that keep people from being able to travel, like creating enough time and money, and all the keys that I've found for finding great deals. And so we'll be going into real depth with all of those things, and I'll be answering some questions, and there'll just be a lot of really fresh, great content in there. There's stuff, this is brand new, that I created, and I'm super, super excited to share it with you. So again, there's a link in the description. You can sign up there to join me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I hope you guys have an awesome Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining me. Bye.